Okay, let's get into the Udym section here. Now, this Udym rollout top section is for a specific version of Max or newer because we render maps based upon selection. So if I left click U1 V1, when I have an object with an unwrap modifier, you'll see here that it renders that location. I'm going to actually right click here, 5 and 10, and I should say 10.5. So we have U10, V5, that's rendered out here. So I believe you need Max 2022.3 or newer for that to work. Otherwise, I think I block that out. Okay, just so you're aware of what tools are here. There is a lot more planned for this, and I'd like to provide previews and make it easier to move things around. But more or less right now, you can have an object, have the elements selected, and you can right click to move them to whatever Udym you want to move them to. I'd like to be able to left click on a Udym. Let's actually right click on it to add it to 1.1, right? Then if we wanted to move what is located at 1.1, we would middle mouse or control click. Then we could actually right click on U10 V5 and move it there. So we'll be able to move things around lightning quick like that. Otherwise, we can just move around like this. You can see the numbers are changing here. We are at U10 V1 right now. We can go down to U7 V1. I can turn off preview Udym move, so we won't get those renders, and this will just work faster. Okay, so then we can turn that back on and then click render 1 to render. That way we don't have to have those slight pauses in there where the UV is rendered out. It just feels smoother. Okay. You probably want to keep this on for the rest of the functions here because it will update this preview section. Okay, next we're going to talk about the select shared nodes. And the select shared nodes is essentially the instance modifier grabber. So we're clicking that. We don't have an instance modifier on this one. So let's grab this for the sake of argument here. We're going to duplicate that. I'm going to right click the preview image to add an instance unwrap modifier to these objects that I have selected. And at this point, I'm going to deselect them all and select one. And now I'll select the shared nodes. And you see it is the same functionality as the instance modifier. It's just easier to get to. So if you see something that's useful in one place and it would be useful in another place without having to jump back and forth, whereas like I can see this element right click is useful down here as well. So I'm thinking of making this more modular so that certain things can always be accessible. I have to rethink this entire thing, and I'd really like to get feedback on the entire system and then kind of plan out a version 2 and see where that goes. I think we can make something quite special. So let's get off of this dreary drudge work of this basic Udym stuff and let's get into the fun Udym stuff, right? So here I have 5 columns with 4 rows, and I'm going to select one and render the UV. So they all have the same UV at U1 V1. We can see sphere 11, channel 1, U1 V1. So I'm going to select all of those objects, right? And I do not want to run a UV method on them, although I could. I don't need to because I already have them mapped. I'm just going to distribute them. I'm not going to repack either. And if it was going to repack, it would use the settings specified in the SSUV rollout, which is the packing section here. Okay. You could have the packing section here as well, and you see that's kind of useful when it comes to things like this. These floaters are handy. Then what we have is where would we like to start this column and row? Well, normally you start it at 1.1, right? But I'm going to start it at U1 V2. Let's start it there. That sounds good. Then we have a column of 3. So we'll do 3 and then however many high it goes for rows, right? So this is going to be different. So we're going to control and click. This is going to add a Udym modifier. It's actually an unwrap modifier, but it's going to add that to every single object with a specific name. So if we were going to work with a UV method that's predetermined for the system, that UV method would be inside of this modifier rename right here. Okay, so let's go look at what we have now. We started at U1 V2. We have 3 columns, and then all of them are stacked on top. That's great. That's exactly what we wanted. So now here at the top, we have U2 V8, and that's a perfect stack section. Now let's change this down to U1 V1. I'm going to give a column limit of 2, and I'm going to control click again. Now what we're doing here is creating another modifier on top. That way we can keep track of any changes in case we want to go back, right? So what we have is saved in this, and the other one's saved in this, and that goes for the other options too. So if we were using a UV method, we can use a UV method in just a moment. All right, so there's U1, there's U2, and then we have a full stack all the way up. That's great. There's U2 V10, brilliant. Okay, so let's close that out. We're going to, close that out. And we're going to go to UV method of, let's do a, what the heck, let's do a 45 super flatten. And we're going to repack, so that automatically turns off. You see that? Anytime you choose a UV method, you have to have it pack. So the only time it's available to not repack is when you've turned the UV method off. Okay, so let's go back into that at 45 super flatten. We're going to start at U1 V1. We're going to have a column limit of 10. We're going to do map channel 1 because that's what we want. Well, let's do map channel 2. What the heck? We'll just do map channel 2. Control click and we'll just let it process. Now, if we look at the unwrap modifier being added, we see that it says Udim U1 V1 channel 2 45 super flatten. The information's being saved. Our previous Udim layouts are being saved in the other modifiers. We're good to go. Let's take a look at process, or what was processed for us. And there we are. U10 V1, U10 V2, and that's super flatten. So all of our objects are the same, and we used the super flatten with our packing settings, and everything's looking good, right? So I'm going to actually do this for a little fun. We're going to make a larger layout. Then I'll pause the video and come back. So 1 second. This video is going to be a little longer with the rest of the tools here. So let's have a little fun real quick. I'll pause it so we don't waste time entering the processing. So what we're going to do here is we have 10 rows of 10 teapots, okay? They're just editable poly objects. We don't need to add anything special to them. The UV system will handle it for us. So we'll stay on, you know what? Let's change some of these objects. That makes it a little more interesting. We have teapots and donuts, okay? So let's select them all. And now I have 10 rows of 10. I'm going to begin at Udim U1 V1. My column limit is set to 10. I could change it, but we don't need to. This will just ensure that we have a 10 by 10 grid because we're forcing that limit to not go beyond 10 columns. We're going to do map channel 4 for the heck of it, just because we can. Why not? And super flatten 45 seems pretty good, so control and click. I'm going to pause and come back. Okay, we're back. Let's take a look at what we have. Try to maximize this as best I can for what we have for the video. There we are. A grid of 10 by 10 with everything having been super flattened with a 45-degree break angle. And yeah, packed right for us. Looks great. Now, one thing I do notice is that we do have some toruses down here. So the first one and this one here, they're toruses, and the teapots are the last two. So, you know, we can't control how that is handled unless I could provide a collection list and then process the collection list in that way. So if that's something that you guys are looking for, I'm thinking it's a good thing to add anyways, but if it's something you're looking for, let me know. We have that set up though. Let's just do this real quick. Let's take this, and now I'm going to begin this column count at U4 V4 and column limit 4. Okay, we're back. That was quick. Now we have U4, V4, we began there. We have 4 columns, and 4 columns goes up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. There you go. So you can begin your placement of the Udym layout with that tool specifically. I think if you have one object selected, you cannot place it in that manner. But if you have more than one, it will work out just fine. If you do map one object, you can obviously move it around quickly using these buttons here. Let's see. Oh, this is something I forgot about. We can click Udym'd. So the last object set that we've Udym'd becomes a saved selection set. So we can left click to get that. So even if I select these objects here, I can still click Udym'd. It will select those object sets. Okay. You can see Max is not updating its viewport for me with this video software, I suppose. But let's say this too. We have overflow. So if there's an object that does not work, or we define a certain amount of space and we, I think I worked around that. I'm not sure exactly what the overflow will do. I'll have to look back into that. We can do both. Overflow might also be an object that is not able of being UV mapped. So it might be like a spline or something that you haven't converted into something that we can utilize. I can't remember all the specifics, but you're going to hit walls here if you're not using just editable polys. So if you're using different types, let me know if you're having issues. That way I can work through it and add them to the system. Now, remember, this is big. I'd like to do a lot more with it. I keep saying that, so I'll stop saying it for at least one video. Next, we have Udymizer, Wire Color Selection System. Now, this is quite the fun stuff. So I'm going to grab these and turn them all into editable poly. That's going to take a moment. And we're done. Okay. Now we're going to open up the Wire Color Rows system. Now, here's another panel. Here's another panel. So what we're going to do is, let's get rid of the teapots here because we don't want to spend ages on everything. So we're just going to work off these donuts. Now I'm going to say that we just select all of these donuts and we load the objects into the object panel, okay? Now we don't have any specific wire colors set on anything. They're all black. So everything's been set to that color of 2222. And we're not specifically black, but we're close to that. So what I'm going to do is select these and make them red. Select these and make them orange. Select these and make them yellow. Select these and make them blue. Select these and make them darker red. Yeah, good enough. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different colors. Now I'm going to load the objects into the system now because now we're sorting based upon colors. So if we'd like to say we want the dark red, we can just scroll here. We'll get the color representations. We have dark red there, but now we have to get the orange here. So let's put the orange here. And there we go. Now, if we didn't want orange here, we could actually do this. We could put orange in UV or U row U1 V20. So this is going to give us up to 20 color rows, right? So let's just put this at 8 for now so that we don't get a little too extreme here. Okay, so now over here we have those same selection options, the original and the filtered. Open wire color helper panel. So this allows us to set wire colors. So if we have our selection set like I was working on earlier before I added these colors, we can actually select these and assign, select these and assign, select these, and we'll that's set to, we'll randomize colors. Oh, I like that one. So we'll select these for yellow and assign that one. Okay. We'll close that out. I'm going to actually select that. I'm going to load those objects into the panel. Now you see I have more colors listed, right? Selected objects of selected colors. So if I want to select, there we go. I can select these colors And you see there we can get through like that. Now, if I wanted to select objects, that's something you have to do specifically by hand. But we're showing what objects have that wire color so we know where they'll be placed. So imagine these 4 donuts are actually 4 helmets, and we need the 4 helmets placed on row 10. So we're going to go to row 10, and we're going to, what color are those? Those are green. I already knew that, I think. We're going to place green there, and then I'm going to turn this to no selection. So now we know that we have these 4 helmets that are going to be placed on row 10 because this says they are helmets. That says color green, and we have color green on row 10. You get the idea here, I'm sure. Don't need to over-explain to anybody who's using Udims stuff. Okay, so at this point, what we can do is select the UV method if we want a UV method. It's the same as over here in the other Udimizer endless stacks, okay? We can keep that off. Let's see what it looks like right now. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. We'll just use that as it is. We'll keep that off, and we're not going to repack. We'll just use map channel 1. So I'm going to select all of these and just process the Udim. Now, this is going to do its thing. Let's just let it go. Do 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 do. Now it's going to play a light alert sound when it's completed. Okay. And the alert sound didn't play. I believe that's because I have these sounds turned off in the settings here. I have audio, use helpful tones. That's completely turned off. I had an audio system planned to work with different notifications and to help people understand what they were doing wrong and doing right. It's to really help instruct users get through learning how to UV. But it felt like it was too heavy. So I stopped building it out. So now we're just using it as helpful tones when things come around. If you have ideas for a sound system or an alert system inside of a UV toolset, let me know. Maybe we can revive that. And let's see what we have here. So we have the colored rows as we had specified. We have a window here that says completed. You can now close that window. Great. So we have row 1 is lavender, orange, yellow, blue, dark red, red, beige. That's exactly what we have. Then we have green on row 10, and let's select that. You see, we have green on row 10. Wonderful. So you can go through and map to your heart's content. Now, while this is limited to 20 Udim rows for what you're working on, there's no column limitation on this. So you can go to column U50 if you can support that for whatever you're doing, or you have ways of cobbling things together. I'm sure you'll be creative enough to figure things out if you're somebody who already deals with the Udim pipeline. So that's, yeah, that's good. So let's just try another thing here real quick. So if I select all these colors and I open up the wire color helper and I make them all blue, I'm going to load them all into the object. Or, geez, I said object. Load all the objects into the panel. And you can see that none of them loaded because they weren't selected. So let's select them. There we go. So there's blue. And we have objects with wire color blue. There's 50 of them. Right? We select all 50. Doesn't matter if we have them selected or not. Full selection here. The full selection set is 50. So we can actually go and select these, make them pink. That's fine. And now we can select those and load them into the panel. And you see here that we have objects with wire color pink are 25, and there's a full selection set of 50. So you can see that there's additional information here for you to utilize if you need that information. And obviously, I think this is cut and dry as it is. So this will allow you to start at U1, V1 and build left to right, and based upon your colors. So if you have 15 pink, it will go 15 left to right, so to U15. Then if you have the other colors, you stack on top up to 20 rows. There you go. Let's see here. Udim wire color rows, then Udim scale all Udim rows. Oh, there we go. Let's get right into this. So let's open up a floater so that we can get to this panel here. I'm going to select all of these and shrink them down a little bit. And I'm going to do that using a special tool in the panel here for move, scale, rotate. Okay, I'm going to select the bottom left corner of this. Actually, you know what? I don't need to do it because it's already built in down here. So what we're going to do is scale all the Udims. And I'm going to turn this down to like 0.72. Let's see if we can get in close to see this. I'm going to click Scale All Udims. And you see all of the Udims were scaled. Let's do it again. Brilliant. So if we actually wanted to take all of these and scale them back up to fill the space, right? We can go like 1.1. We might want to do a little more than that. But you can scale. You can see them growing. So we're going to speed that up a bit. 1.2. Scale all Udims. We'll do it one more time. Hey, maybe one more time. Nope, that's a little too much. Now we're going to go down, scale all Udims. That looks pretty good. So we're a little bit away from that edge there. And we're good to go on that. Lastly, we have this debug Udim max file. And what you see here is quite different. I posted about this in the Stack group. It's about creating a Udim plane where it utilizes Udim images, 120. Is it 128? Or utilizes 100 Udims to make a grid of 10 by 10. And then it shows that in the viewport, but the viewport doesn't render it. However, if you render out an image or video, it does work fine. So there's a directions file with some steps to take here, so we can go into that. There you are. And, oh, what the heck? Let's just open it. Okay, so here's the information image that comes along with this. It's a 10 by 10 grid. Okay, and you can see all the Udims here. There is more information that's provided in the Max scene, so you don't need to actually read that. You can load the file name and then provide this information to the viewport Udims, right? So there's information and steps on how to complete this. Okay, the scene comes pre-set up, so all you need to do is load it. You can see now that these faces that I've pre-selected here are not being displayed in the viewport. But if we go to active shade, let me pause until it renders. Okay, that took maybe 8 seconds or so. Okay, so you can see that it is rendering just fine, right? So it's just the viewport preview that is broken. Let's see that. That looks pretty good. So this gives you an example setup. It shows you the Udims 1010, and then, well, it's by row number. It's not exactly by proper naming convention, but there's 1/100 there. That's how that is placed into the material name. Do, 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 do. Okay, here we are. And where are we? Bitmap lookup table. File name, Udim, load Udim. Okay, so there's other information here. This is a little different than it was when I set it up. If you're smart enough to get into Udims, you already know how you can work through all this other stuff. So this is just an example file that's provided to you so you can see things in action. You can even use it as a test bed if you need to learn how to get into Udims, right? So yeah, that's that. So that is how we are managing Udims at this time. Of course, this can be greatly improved.